Volume 2, Part 8 of Herodotus's Histories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Histories, Volume 2, by Herodotus of Halicarnassus. Translated by E.D. Godley. Volume 2, Part 8. Next to these Maclies are the Ossians. These and the Maclies, separated by the Triton, live on the shores of the Tritonian lake. The Maclies wear their hair long behind, the Ossians in front. They celebrate a yearly festival of Athena, where their maidens are separated into two bands and fight each other with stones and sticks, thus, they say, honoring in the way of their ancestors that native goddess whom we call Athena. Maidens who die of their wounds are called false virgins. Before the girls are set fighting, the whole people choose the fairest maid, and arm her with a Corinthian helmet and a Greek panoply, to be then mounted on a chariot and drawn all along the lake shore. With what armor they equipped their maidens before the Greeks came to live near them I cannot say, but I suppose the armor was Egyptian, for I maintain that the Greeks took their shield and helmet from Egypt. As for Athena, they say that she was daughter of Poseidon and the Tritonian lake, and that, being for some reason angry at her father, she gave herself to Zeus, who made her his own daughter. Such is their tale. The intercourse of men and women there is promiscuous. They do not cohabit, but have intercourse like cattle. When a woman's child is well grown, the men assemble within 3 months, and the child is adjudged to be that man's whom it is most like. I have now described all the nomadic Libyans who live on the coast. Farther inland than these is that Libyan country which is haunted by wild beasts, and beyond this wild beast haunt runs a ridge of sand that stretches from Thebes of Egypt to the Pillars of Heracles. At intervals of about 10 days' journey along this ridge, there are masses of great lumps of salt in hills. On the top of every hill a fountain of cold sweet water shoots up from the midst of the salt. Men live around it who are furthest away toward the desert and inland from the wild beasts' country. The first on the journey from Thebes, 10 days distant from there, are the Ammonians, who follow the worship of the Zeus of Thebes. For, as I have said before, the image of Zeus at Thebes has the head of a ram. They have another spring of water besides, which is warm at dawn, and colder at market time, and very cold at noon, and it is then that they water their gardens. As the day declines, the coldness abates, until at sunset the water grows warm. It becomes ever hotter and hotter until midnight, and then it boils and bubbles. After midnight it becomes ever cooler until dawn. This spring is called the Spring of the Sun. At a distance of 10 days' journey again from the Ammonians along the sandy ridge, there is a hill of salt like that of the Ammonians, and springs of water, where men live. This place is called Aguila. It is to this that the Nasamones come to gather palm fruit. After 10 days' journey again from Aguila there is yet another hill of salt, and springs of water, and many fruit-bearing palms. As at the other places, men live there called Garamantes, an exceedingly great nation, who sow in earth which they have laid on the salt. The shortest way to the lotus-eaters' country is from there, 30 days' journey distant. Among the Garamantes are the cattle that go backward as they graze, the reason being that their horns curve forward. Therefore, not being able to go forward, since the horns would stick in the ground, they walk backward grazing. Otherwise they are like other cattle, except that their hide is thicker and harder to the touch. These Garamantes go in their 4-horse chariots chasing the cave-dwelling Ethiopians, for the Ethiopian cave-dwellers are swifter of foot than any men of whom tales are brought to us. They live on snakes and lizards and such like creeping things. Their speech is like no other in the world, it is like the squeaking of bats. Another 10 days' journey from the Garamantes there is again a salt hill and water, where men live called the Atarantes. These are the only men whom we know who have no names, for the whole people are called Atarantes, but no man has a name of his own. When the sun is high, they curse and very foully revile him, because his burning heat afflicts their people and their land. After another 10 days' journey, there is again a hill of salt, and water, and men living there. Near to this salt is a mountain called Atlas, whose shape is slender and conical, and it is said to be so high that its heights cannot be seen, for clouds are always on them winter and summer. The people of the country call it the Pillar of Heaven. These men get their name, which is Atlantes, from this mountain. It is said that they eat no living creature, and see no dreams in their sleep. I know and can tell the names of all the peoples that live on the ridge as far as the Atlantes, but no farther than that. But I know this, that the ridge reaches as far as the pillars of Heracles and beyond them. There is a mine of salt on it every 10 days' journey, and men live there. Their houses are all built of blocks of the salt, for these are parts of Libya where no rain falls, for the walls, being of salt, could not stand firm if there were rain. The salt there is both white and purple. Beyond this ridge, the southern and inland parts of Libya are desolate and waterless. There are no wild beasts, no rain, no forests. This region is wholly without moisture. Thus from Egypt to the Tritonian lake, the Libyans are nomads that eat meat and drink milk. For the same reason as the Egyptians too profess, they will not touch the flesh of cows, and they rear no swine. The women of Cyrene, too, consider it wrong to eat cows' flesh, because of the Isis of Egypt, and they even honor her with fasts and festivals, and the Barchian women refuse to eat swine too, as well as cows. Thus it is with this region. But west of the Tritonian lake the Libyans are not nomads. They do not follow the same customs, or treat their children as the nomads do. For the practice of many Libyan nomads, I cannot say absolutely whether it is the practice of all, is to take their children, when they are 4 years old, and to burn the veins of their scalps, or sometimes of their temples, with the grease of sheep's wool, so that the children may never afterward be afflicted by phlegm draining from the head. They say that this makes their children quite healthy. In fact, the Libyans are the healthiest of all men whom we know. Whether it is because of this practice I cannot absolutely say, but they certainly are healthy. When the children smart from the pain of the burning, the Libyans have found a remedy. They soothe them by applications of goat's urine. This is what the Libyans themselves say. The nomad's way of sacrificing is to cut a piece from the victim's ear for first fruits and throw it over the house. Then they wring the victim's neck. They sacrifice to no gods except the sun and moon. That is, this is the practice of the whole nation, but the dwellers by the Tritonian lake sacrifice to Athena chiefly, and next to Triton and Poseidon. It would seem that the robe and aegis of the images of Athena were copied by the Greeks from the Libyan women, for except that Libyan women dress in leather, and that the tassels of their goatskin cloaks are not snakes but thongs of hide, in everything else their equipment is the same. And in fact, the very name betrays that the attire of the statues of Pallas has come from Libya, for Libyan women wear the hairless tasselled aegea over their dress, coloured with madder, and the Greeks have changed the name of these aegei to their aegidas. Furthermore, in my opinion, the ceremonial chant first originated in Libya, for the women of that country chant very tunefully. And it is from the Libyans that the Greeks have learned to drive 4-horse chariots. The dead are buried by the nomads in Greek fashion, except by the Nasamones. They bury their dead sitting, being careful to make the dying man sit when he releases his spirit, and not die lying supine. Their dwellings are constructed of asphodel stalks twined about reeds. They can be carried here and there. Such are the Libyan customs. West of the Triton River and next to the Esseians begins the country of Libyans who cultivate the soil and possess houses. They are called the Maxies. They wear their hair long on the right side of their heads and shave the left, and they paint their bodies with vermilion. These claim descent from the men who came from Troy. Their country, and the rest of the western part of Libya, is much fuller of wild beasts and more wooded than the country of the nomads. For the eastern region of Libya, which the nomads inhabit, is low-lying and sandy as far as the Triton River, but the land west of this, where the farmers live, is exceedingly mountainous and wooded and full of wild beasts. In that country are the huge snakes and the lions, and the elephants and bears and asps, the horned asses, the dog-headed and the headless men that have their eyes in their chests, as the Libyans say, and the wild men and women, besides many other creatures not fabulous. But in the nomads' country there are none of these, but there are others, white-rumped antelopes, gazelles, hartebeests, asses, not the horned asses, but those that are called undrinking, for they never drink, the oryx, whose horns are made the horns of the lyre, this is a beast the size of a bull, foxes, hyenas, porcupines, wild rams, the dictees, jackals, panthers, the boris, land crocodiles 60 inches long, very like lizards, and ostriches and little one-horned serpents, all these beasts besides those that are elsewhere too, except deer and wild boar. Of these 2 kinds there are none at all in Libya. There are in this country 3 kinds of mice, 2-footed, The Zagares,